Kids may not be as theologically astute as you and I were. We were pretty theologically astute coming out of college. But they're much more in love with Jesus than we were. And in the end, that's what's of ultimate significance, isn't it? Do you love me? But Lord, I have this great theology. Do you love me? You don't understand. I have really been able to convince people of the tulip theology of Calvin. Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me?
And if you do, keep my commandments.
Yeah, there it is. I was at a...
that way, just
yeah, okay, there you... I was
that way.
That way, okay, I'm this way. I was up in Alberta, Canada, at Ambrose University College, it's called. Ambrose University College. It's a wonderful new university put together by the Christian Missionary Alliance and the who was the other group? Well, these two groups got together. I'm trying to think of the other group. But they started this university, and it's wonderful. Beautiful new buildings, a wonderful student body up there in Canada. It's going to become one of the leading schools in Canada for training people. But it was interesting. I spoke there one night. They packed the place out. It was, I mean, the place was jammed. And they got people in this community to come. It was a wonderful night for me. And I gave a lecture. And after the lecture was over, there were questions from the floor. And in this part of the country, there are a lot of Mennonites. And I know it was a Mennonite that stood up and said, Dr. Campolo, we sense that you have certain pacifist leanings. If someone was to break into your house and threaten to kill your wife and children, what would you do? I said,
tar out of them.
You got it. I said, if it was a choice between them, my wife and children, and this murdering crook, I'd do my best to kill the murdering crook. And this guy said, well, then you're not really a pacifist. I said, I'm a troubled pacifist. Because, first of all, you asked me to answer honestly, and that's what I would do. Now, maybe God will change me, and maybe I'll not be this way. If you were to ask me if it's a choice between killing him and being killed, I think I am at the point where I can say I'm willing to be killed if that's the choice. Because I know what will happen to me if I am killed. And I know what will happen to this evil man if he is killed. I want to have him more time to accept Jesus. You can see my logic. I think I would have the courage. I think God, especially when you're my age, how many years you got left anyway? I think I could take the bullet. But it's quite another thing when it's your wife and kids, see. So I think I'm kind of there. But the reason why you could still, and I don't like to be called a pacifist, I go with Mahatma Gandhi, who refused to be called a pacifist. He said, instead, I am somebody who believes in passive resistance. I resist. Pacifists do not resist. I'm going to resist, but I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to resist. But it was an interesting question.
So resisting would be...
Try to take the gun away from them.
Fighting them or stopping them.
Stopping them. I'm not going to kill you. I'm not going to hurt you. But I am going to resist. I'm going to resist evil with good. But it was an interesting question. And then I said this to him. I said, the reason why I could never be in the military is because when you described that situation where somebody was broke into my house and was going to kill my wife and kids, you were putting me in a situation where I had a decision to make. When you join the Army, you don't have a decision. Those people that are over in Iraq right now did not decide to go to Iraq. They didn't say, oh, I want to go to Iraq. They were sent. They were under orders. When they are asked questions about the war, their attitude is, look, it's not my job to answer these questions. My job is to do my patriotic duty. That's where I differ. I think it is your duty to ask the questions. And I also think that you do not give to a commanding officer the right to make moral decisions for yourself. You should decide whether what you do. No commanding officer should decide for you whether or not this person should be shot.
But then we can't have an army.
I don't think we should.
I disagree.
I know you disagree.
And you're sitting here with the freedom.
Where's your microphone?
Well, you're sitting here with the freedom that was bought with the blood.
Did you hear me say?
I heard you.
Did you hear me say
just wanted to repeat
Did
it.
you hear me say I was a troubled pacifist?
Because really, that just doesn't work.
Well,
it doesn't work. We wouldn't have America if it wasn't for a great army. We wouldn't have America if it wasn't for former Brits who didn't come over and fight England and.
I don't know what we would have. Lord Chesterton said it well. It's not that Christianity has been tried and failed to work. It has not been tried. That's an important statement.
It may be. All I know is we have America because there were some people who wanted separation of church and state.
Look.
Didn't want what is it? A
theocracy.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just point this out to you. India is in a mess right now. Killing the Pakistanis, and Pakistanis are killing people in India. Gandhi, however, was able to keep that from happening because he unified Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, all of which was one nation at that time under the British Empire. And he brought them together to bring about freedom for India. But he did it without violence. He did it without killing anybody. He had a great line. Here it is. There are many things that are worth dying for. There is nothing worth killing for. Oh, good line.
That's Gandhi.
Gandhi. But he stood up against the British, and the British on one occasion had their soldiers just fire at the mob, shooting them down, slaughtering them. And they just stood there. And they resisted. And when they asked Gandhi, how do you expect to ever get the dogs are out there.
The dogs. Okay.
How do you ever expect to get the British to leave India? He said, I expect to get them to leave India as friends. 2 weeks after he had won his non-violent revolution and the British capitulated to non-violent resistance, he was welcomed in London with a hero's welcome. How do you defeat a nation and then have that nation treat you as a hero? When Jesus said, love your enemies, he probably meant you shouldn't kill them.
Kill them. Right. I agree.
So the word continues to trouble me, and I am a troubled pacifist. What I don't understand, Mark, is why so many Christians are not troubled militarists. You have a perfect right to say, I've studied the scripture and I've come to the conclusion that I have to be militant. But if you are, shouldn't you at least be troubled by this, given what Jesus says on the Sermon on the Mount?
Sure, I agree.
Yeah.